talking a long time here on News for Reasonable People about how corporate America at some point in time is going to say, yeah, we're going to need you to all come back to the office. That whole work from home thing, I mean, it was good when we were dealing with the pandemic and whatnot. And we were all, trying to play by the rules and having all you guys work from home. But we've realized that just doesn't really work out for us in corporate. So you can either, number one, start going into an office near you. If there isn't an office near you, you can move to Seattle. Or number three, which is, headquarters. Or number three, you can resign. It's literally what Amazon's got going on. Let's get into it. Here we go. Amazon ordering corporate workers to relocate as part of return to office policy. Now, we did just get through in May, they went from fully remote or some kind of hybrid deal to, yep, you can come in, you can come into the office. We need you in the office 3 days a week. Some of the divisions, they can pick which days of the week they want to go, but primarily it is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And the reason we know this is because all the traffic flow. I mean, Thursday afternoon is just kind of chaos because that's the new Friday. And, Tuesday morning commute, that's the new Monday. Well, I think we're going back to more of a maybe 4 days a week in the office. Maybe they slide in, and I'm talking down the road another year. Guys, it's been going so well. Guys and girls, let's not be sexist. Guys and girls, it's been going so well with you in the office a minimum of 3 days a week and, hybriding 4 that why don't let's go back to old times. Let's go back to the old, let's let's put the band back together. Let's do 5 days a week in the office. I think that's what you're headed for. I think that's what you're headed for. Maybe it's 4 with 1 day optional, something like that, but it's going to be more than 3 for sure. It just is. Because corporate America, they want your ass in your seat at the office. Now, where that kind of falls apart is, that ass in the seat in the office costs a lot of money office space wise. Maybe we don't need to pay that anymore. So some companies that are more progressive are going to go down that road, or maybe they've got a business model where they don't need to be in the office 3 to 4 or 5 days a week. So you're going to see a bunch of that too. But Amazon has kind of been leading the pack. You've got Microsoft and Facebook, I believe, because these are all major companies right around where I am. I can literally walk out my office and get to multiple big office complexes just, a mile down the road. Facebook's got a couple of big buildings. Amazon, another mile down the road. I mean, big buildings. So I hear about it all the time. So Microsoft and Facebook, they're going to go back to, minimum of 3 days a week in September coming up, a couple of months from now. Amazon is asking some corporate workers to relocate to other cities as part of its return to office policy, which mandates workers be in the office 3 days a week. And there's a lot of pushback going on. Now, the one thing that people always point to is they had a walkout. Amazon had a walkout. Well, kinda. It was during lunch break. A bunch of people went outside because it was sunny, kind of hung out on the lawn area in front of one of the corporate buildings. And, they talked about some stuff. It wasn't really a walkout. It wasn't really a strike. It was more of a statement than it was a walkout. Walkout is, we're walking out. We're leaving. We're not coming back until this gets taken care of. Well, I think they just wanted to make their feelings known that they don't appreciate going back into the office. And I get that. If you're commuting from far away, what a pain in the ass. If you moved based on what your boss told you, we're working remotely forever. We're just doing this. And then all of a sudden, pandemic's over a few years later. Yeah, I know we told you one thing, but we're going to need you back in the office. An Amazon spokesperson confirmed on Friday that relocations are happening, but would not comment on reports by several news outlets that the tech giant was requiring some workers in smaller offices to move to main offices located in bigger cities, or remote workers in areas where there isn't a local office, are being required to either move to where there is a local office or move to headquarters, or they can resign. Those are the options. Amazon didn't provide details on the number of employees that will be required to relocate, and it's only a certain number of divisions that it's my understanding, right? And to be fair, at the same time, Amazon, there are certain divisions where you can pick your 3 days a week. You've got flexibility. You just need to check in and, do your key card and, hey, you visited the office 3 times last week. That's great. That's great. That's swell, Wally, right? Did you make it into the office? I did. And another thing that we haven't touched on is the number of times that the Amazon employee has, swiped their key card, whatever it is, whatever the mechanism is, to get into the building. Those are registered. And so at your next review, your job, performance review, you only swiped 1 on the week of the 3rd. Well, I don't know about you. You're a madman. I don't know if we can keep you on. Yeah, your job numbers are fine and all, but yeah, your ID swiping badge at the door, office headquarters, doesn't seem to be happening. Not sure what we're going to do with you. Amazon spokesperson Brad Glasser said the company will provide relocation benefits to workers who are asked to move and consider requests for exceptions on a case-by-case basis. People have gotten used to a lifestyle, right? And I think for a lot of employees in a lot of companies, a lot of state workers, a lot of county workers, a lot of federal workers, federal government has literally millions of square feet of office space that it's not using. Washington, D.C., I did a podcast on Washington, D.C. not long ago, how much space there was that was not being used by the federal government because their employees are working from home because they're typing away on a keyboard warriors, right? And you don't necessarily need that space at the office anymore. I was talking with my girlfriend the other day. She works 1 day in the office, King County worker. She works 1 day in the office, and the other 3, because she works 4, 10 or 11 hour days. It's kind of a brutal gig where you just, crunch it out, start at 6:15 in the morning or 6:30 in the morning or something like that. And it's still working at 3:30. Yeah. Not a lot of fun, but just a long day. But they're 1 day a week. And so we were talking about, well, okay, so if you're working 1 day a week and you've got a dedicated desk, do you really need that? And those are things where couldn't they consolidate and you get kind of a flex desk? Because if you're only there 1 day a week, you don't really need a dedicated desk space, right? You can just have, whatever kind of temporary, but if they're working on computers, dedicated computers with VPNs and that kind of stuff, all right, that's where it gets a little tricky, not having dedicated space. But, those are all things that are going into this equation, right? What do we do? What do we do with all that office space? I was reading that the office market is going to be rocked until 2030. Yeah, another 6 years going to be rocked, just going through all this leased space that no longer has a use for it. And so it was interesting to read some of the, recommendations by authors. Well, since we have such demand for affordable housing, let's just convert it all and it'll all be fine. And, we really need to take the bull by the horns here and start these conversion processes soon. And all I can think of is, that's not going to work out. That's not going to work. Plus, they don't really pencil. So why are you're just basically saying, hey, we got all this empty space. We need to do something with it to turn it into income generating, tax generating revenue sources, right? Because it's not happening. Not happening. City budgets are just going to get whacked. Just whacked because they don't have the businesses coming in and all the other little businesses. Got that doom cycle going, right? There's more energy, collaboration, and connections happening since we've been working together at least 3 days per week. Here's the pitch, right? Here's the pitch. And we've heard this from lots of employees and the businesses that surround our offices, Glasser said in a prepared statement. So we've heard this from lots of employees. That's probably nonsense. I think most employees do not want to go back to the office. And you know what? If you've been doing your job and if you've been getting good reviews on how you've done your job remotely, I can't really blame you. Is there something to energy, collaboration, and connections happening if you're in the workplace more? Yes, there is. But I think most tech companies have also figured out ways around that. Like, meetings. All right, I got a 9:00 meeting, a Zoom meeting, whatever it is. I got an 11:00 meeting and I got a 10:30 meeting, and then I got a planning session. We figured out how to do all those things. Before the pandemic, we didn't know how to do all those things because Zoom, what's Zoom? Zoom was a TV show when I was a kid or something. Wasn't it? Zoom. I don't remember. Yeah, whatever. We continue to look at the best ways to bring more teams together at the same locations, and we'll communicate directly with employees as we make decisions that affect them. Corporate speak, right? Just nonsense. Corporate speak. But yeah, lots of employees wanting to go back, and businesses that surround our offices. Well, of course, I'm skipping around here, but it's because there's a point to it. Businesses that surround your offices want to see your butt in your desk because that means at lunchtime, you're going to go out and spend some money at the other little businesses. Yep. And the mayors know this. City councilmen know this. They know exactly what the drill is. So that's why there's been this big push. We need to keep the band together. We need to keep the city structure together. And work from home has really, really rocked that. I was looking at cities across the world that are being rocked. And this is not just the US. I mean, you've got, cities in France, you've got London, you've got, Sydney, Australia, major cities that have a big downtown core of workers. Those are the ones that are being really impacted. So the reallocations represent an escalation of the company's efforts to get workers back to the office. In February, Amazon introduced a new policy that would require workers to be in the office 3 days a week. The policy went into effect in May. We saw that. It was the first Tuesday in May, so it would have been May 2nd. We immediately here in Seattle started feeling the traffic flow. And some of that we can attribute because I come from the east side, which is the east side of Lake Washington. On the west side of Lake Washington, you've got Seattle proper. On this side, you've got Bellevue, Redmond, and Kirkland. That's kind of the east side areas. We've only got two ways across that damn lake. On the north end, and this is kind of cutting over the lake. On the north, and you can see, if you're on one bridge, you can see the other bridge. That's how close they are. They're a handful of miles apart. 520 floating bridge is on the north, and it cuts from Bellevue directly into University of Washington. And on the south, we go from South Bellevue into basically downtown Seattle. So you've got two main arterials and ways to get from those areas. The first Tuesday in May, which was the second, you could see the traffic. You could just, wow, where did this come from? We all got used to pandemic traffic. Hey, there's nobody out here. It's noon on a Thursday. This is awesome. There's nobody around because traffic in Seattle is, it's just bad. It's LA bad because we have smaller road systems and it doesn't take much to bog us down. And invariably, some knucklehead can't figure out how to drive in the rain and causes a 4-car pileup, and then, traffic is hosed for hours. So we've got these relocations happening or proposed relocations happening. And this is, these are the steps that we're taking to get everybody back to the office because they're telling us, collaboration's so much better. Is it? Is it really? I don't buy that for a second. I do buy that there is some benefit to meeting in the office, but is it enough to override demanding people work back in the office again? That's where I don't have a lot of experience with companies that work that way. My company has been working basically remotely since 2011. Both Reynolds and Klein Appraisal and Summit Properties Northwest has operated that way. I really only have office space because I need a dedicated, place to podcast and have all this equipment and stuff. So, every business is different. Amazon CEO Andy Jassy said Friday in February that the company made its decision to bring workers back after observing what worked during the pandemic. Among other things, he said the senior leadership team watched how staff performed and talked to leaders at other companies. He said they concluded employees tended to be more engaged in person and collaborate more easily. Yeah, I think that is true. Okay. Is it enough to override the negative side for employees? That's where I'm like, I don't know. That's a push, right? The other thing that I think is pretty heavily touched on is mentorship. The younger employees just coming out of college, it's their first job, them working from home. I think you learn a lot just by being around, how the company operates, how others act, how others talk. I learned so much just going up to my Uncle Gary's office and listen to him talk on the phone to a bunch of people while I was waiting to, have a meeting with them. Or we worked kind of out of the same office complex. He owned an office complex here on Bell Red Road. We had appraisal shop space down below. And I would go up there and just kind of, shoot the what. And I learned so much in my early 20s by talking with somebody who was, big house builder, big developer, but owned businesses. You learn so much from that. That wouldn't have happened if I was working at home remotely. And those are some of the things that I worry about, even with my own son working basically remotely appraising, is that it does make him independent from the standpoint he doesn't have the ability to, I shouldn't do the phone thing. I should say just talk in person. Doesn't have that ability, but it makes him more independent. But also he's losing out on experience from other more, older employees that might know how to handle a situation. So, there's give and take. But I think the pushback is going to be too great on the work from home. And I think we're going to go to probably 4 days a week, 1 day Friday. Who doesn't want to have, work from home Friday, right? And maybe every now and then a work from home Monday as well. I think that's what most companies will end up with, something like that. More of a work in the office than not, right? He said they concluded employees tended to be more engaged in person and collaborate more easily. Yeah. Okay. I can't disagree there, but is it going to be worth the beat down the corporate's going to take? People quitting. How about that? People quitting. Your three options. The third one being resign. Citing internal messages, Business Insider reported earlier Amazon employees who refuse to relocate near main offices of their teams are being told they have to either find a new job internally or leave the company through a voluntary resignation. The company has cut 27,000 jobs in the past few months. So there you go. We are not on one of these hiring sprees. So the job market looks substantially different now than it did at the beginning or during the pandemic, right? Substantially different. So I think people are kind of going, all right, we got to see how this goes. Oh God, I just moved way out in the boondocks and now I've been working. I figured out how to make all this go. Now I got to move back. Now people are going to do what they need to do to afford that mortgage payment. Right. But what a gyration, both back and forth. All right, everybody go home. All right, everybody come back halftime. All right, everybody come back 3/4 time. You know what? Let's just make this full time and call it good. Just like the olden days, right? Let's just do that. I believe that's exactly where we sit right now. And we are just going through the motions. We're just going through the steps to where we get to that 4 days a week in the office, 1 hybrid day, work from home, Friday. Yeah, you got your 3-day weekend. That's not terrible. That's still better than what you had prior to the pandemic. Different divisions are going to have different standards. And, depending on the other argument that I've heard fairly often is that if you're in a division, if you're in some tech company and you're already working with somebody from, Israel, Pakistan, India, in England, London, and you're the 5th member and you're in, I don't know, somewhere, San Francisco. Do you really need to be going into an office structure? Do you really need to be going into a physical building? Because a lot of those divisions you're working on, you've already figured out your whole thing. Whether you do that from home or in the office, does it really matter? Probably not, because you're not sitting down with those people anyway. you're not sitting down with those people. And those are more the collaborative teams, but there's a lot of that going out there because, it's a worldwide economy now. So I think it kind of depends, but this to me is just kind of one more push. Yeah, we're going to need you to work on Saturday. Office Space, where they, destroy the fax machine. Was the copy machine or fax machine? Yeah, that was a great movie. All right, that's all I got for you on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I will catch up with you in the next. We'll see you then. Bye for now.